I want you to take a close look here at a couple of photos. First up, T.J. Warshevsky. He died of anorexia at the age of 22 after an 8-year battle with the disease. And 14-year-old Avi Sani, in treatment, still battling the disease, going on 4 years now, since he was 10 years old. Boys are being called the new face of body dysmorphia, which can lead to eating disorders and addiction. Brian Cuban has penned a new book, Shattered Image, about his 30-year struggle with body dysmorphia. It is a candid and emotional account of how it all started and how he found a road to healing. There is the cover of the book, and he's joining us right now. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for having me, Ron.
The cover of the book, I think, in its own way, sort of speaks to this issue that when you looked at yourself, at what age do you think did you begin to see something that wasn't really who you were?
I want to say about junior high. Here it will be called middle school. I want to say 10 or 11 years old.
And did you start to feel like you were overweight? I mean, how would you characterize?
Well, I had already started gaining weight. I was a very shy kid, middle child, middle of three. Mark's the oldest. We have a younger brother.
Right.
Middle child syndrome. I was shy. I was a very shy child looking for acceptance. And as I started, as I started feeling badly about myself, I started to eat more. I started to gain weight. I had a very difficult relationship with my mom. We've since reconciled. It's all good.
Right.
But there was fat shaming. There was fat shaming. And she was fat shamed by her mom. It runs downhill.
Right,
and it is what it is.
And kids can be cruel.
And kids can be cruel, and it is what it is. I mean, what I went through is no different than what other kids go through, absent the internet.
But the difference is some kids are able to maybe manage their, as I read more about this, I'm beginning to see that some kids, there's a trigger. And you begin to work through some of these issues, and it takes on almost an obsessive quality of control, where you decide that you can control what you eat and therefore change how you look.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what happened to me. Really, the trigger was when I was about 11. I was pantsed by a bunch of kids. Basically, I was a heavy kid at that point, and I was wearing these gold kind of like disco pants that Mark had given me, and I loved them.
Let's blame it on Mark.
No, we're not blaming this on Mark. We're not blaming this on Mark. This is all on me. But it was pre-disco, but I loved the pants.
Right.
And I was wearing them, and then they were tight on me, and my gut was hanging over, and kids were making fun of me. I'm walking home from school, sort of hanging on the outside, not really my friends, but you want acceptance.
Right.
You want to be accepted, so you sort of hang around. You know, and they start making fun of my pants, and they start saying, "Hey, Cuban, man, those are kind of tight on you. I can, blah blah blah." Next thing I know, they're pulling at them. Next thing I know, they're all joining him and tearing them off me.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, they had torn my pants off me and threw them out in the street. Totally. I'm in my underwear. This fat kid in his underwear.
Boy.
And it was very traumatic. I had to walk a mile home in my underwear. I went and picked them up, and they went on their way laughing. Kids can be cruel.
Right.
If that happened today, it'd be on YouTube.
So you began to feel like if you changed the way you look, you'd change the way others felt about you, and you'd have a better time of it. And when I read about other kids who are going through this, it looks like the statistics are changing. It used to be among children who suffered from anorexia or bulimia that 10% were boys. Now they think it's more like 25%. And I'm wondering, is that because more boys are suffering from it, or more boys are being diagnosed with it and recognized as having the issue?
I think it's because more boys are diagnosed with it and recognized as having the issue. And while the shame is still incredible and men just don't come forward, I think more men are coming forward to seek treatment, so you're seeing those numbers skew up a little bit.
So one final thing here. If you're a parent and you are preconceived to believe that this is something that only happens to girls, that it doesn't affect boys, it only affects girls, and you have a son, what are the signs? What are you looking for as a parent to indicate that you might have a son who's struggling with this?
First off, isolation. If your child is isolating, something's going on. Kids don't isolate for no reason. Change in eating habits. Moving into extreme eating habits, more looking into the mirror, more talking about specific body parts. I feel fat. I look fat. 10 and 11-year-old kids shouldn't be talking like that.
And one final point you make in the book, you don't have to have a teenager who's emaciatingly thin to be dealing with an issue like, say, bulimia, which is binging and purging, or working out to excess to attain a certain ideal that's just not realistic.
That's true. I mean, All shapes and sizes come down with body dysmorphic disorder. All shapes and sizes come down with anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorder, which is now.
Well, I will say that your book goes a long way, I think, in hopefully lifting the stigma among boys and young men who might read it. And I know you're going to take this to the high school and college circuit. And Brian will be sharing more of his story coming up this morning at 9 on Good Morning Texas. More of the details of exactly the depths that he went, that you reached
Yes.
rock bottom before you pulled yourself up, and his road to recovery. So that's all coming up at 9 on Good Morning Texas. Thank you so much. There's the book again, Shattered Image, Brian Cuban.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. You bet.